Here are 13 moments that critics say left Meghan and Harry facing intense public scrutiny. According to commentators, several of these incidents became so widely discussed that they dominated headlines and social media for days. Stay with us until number 9, because many observers say that particular moment sparked fresh questions about why the couple continues stepping into high-profile television appearances, despite the harsh public reaction they often receive. Number 1, the Taylor Swift concert. The first story centers on Taylor Swift's record-breaking tour and a situation that, according to critics, combined celebrity culture, royal comparisons, and awkward public optics. For years, Meghan has faced criticism from some commentators who argue that she tries to build connections with high-profile celebrities as a way of strengthening her public image. Whether that characterization is fair remains a matter of opinion, but it has become a recurring theme in commentary surrounding her. During one stop on Taylor Swift's tour, reports circulated claiming that Meghan had hoped to secure backstage access to meet the singer. According to those reports, the request was declined because Swift was observing a vocal rest period and was not meeting visitors. Taken on its own, many people viewed that explanation as entirely routine, since major touring performers often limit interactions to protect their voices. The story gained far more attention, however, because around the same period, Prince William attended the concert with his children as part of a birthday celebration, and reports indicated they were able to meet Taylor backstage. The children themselves were never the focus of the discussion. Instead, commentators concentrated on the contrast between the two situations. Critics argued that the comparison created difficult optics. In their view, Meghan appeared to be seeking access that reportedly wasn't available to her, while William's family seemed to receive a warm welcome without similar controversy. Whether every detail of those reports is accurate or not, many observers felt the side-by-side comparison shaped the public conversation in a way that was unfavorable to Meghan. According to those critics, the moment reinforced an existing narrative that opportunities and goodwill seemed to flow more naturally toward William's side of the family. Number 2, Sophie's family tree. Another widely discussed moment involved Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, during a visit to a school. The event itself appeared routine. Sophie was speaking with students about the monarchy and explaining how the royal family is structured. To make the lesson easier to understand, she sketched a simple family tree and line of succession for the class. That drawing soon became the focus of online discussion. Some commentators noticed that Prince Harry and Meghan did not appear in the simplified diagram and interpreted that omission as meaningful. Critics argued that the illustration reflected how the working royal family now operates following Harry and Meghan's departure from official royal duties. Others cautioned against reading too much into the moment, pointing out that it was only a simplified teaching aid rather than a complete family chart. Even so, screenshots of the drawing spread quickly across social media, where many people debated whether the omission carried symbolic significance. For critics of the couple, it represented another indication that Harry and Meghan now occupy a much smaller place within the institution than they once did. Others defended Sophie, arguing that she was simply explaining the current working structure of the monarchy rather than making any personal statement about Harry or Meghan. They noted that Harry is now much farther down the line of succession than he was years ago, and no longer serves as a working royal, making his omission from a simplified classroom illustration understandable in their view. Regardless of which interpretation people accepted, the discussion surrounding the drawing quickly became another example of how even small royal moments can generate widespread public debate. From that perspective, some people argued there was nothing personal about the classroom illustration. They viewed it as a practical way to explain the current structure of the working royal family rather than a deliberate comment on Harry and Meghan. Others, however, reached a very different conclusion. According to some royal commentators, the omission felt like a subtle but unmistakable message from Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. Rather than making public remarks about interviews, family disagreements, or past controversies, she simply focused on the royals who currently perform official duties. To critics of Harry and Meghan, that silence carried its own meaning. Supporters of that interpretation argued that the moment became awkward because Harry and Meghan have remained central figures in public conversations about the monarchy, yet the classroom explanation appeared to move past them entirely. Whether intentional or not, some observers felt the omission symbolized how their role within the institution has changed. Others maintained it was simply a simplified educational diagram with no hidden significance. Number 3. The unanswered invitation. The next incident centers on Meghan's podcast and a reported invitation sent to Taylor Swift. According to published reports, Meghan personally invited Taylor Swift to appear on her podcast by sending a handwritten letter. On its own, many people saw the gesture as thoughtful and respectful. However, commentators quickly began debating whether such an appearance had ever been a realistic possibility. At the time, Taylor Swift was in the middle of one of the largest concert tours in music history, selling out stadiums worldwide and dominating global entertainment headlines. Because of that, some critics argued the invitation reflected an overly optimistic assessment of the likelihood that one of the world's busiest performers would agree to appear on the show. Reports later indicated that the invitation was declined through one of Taylor Swift's representatives rather than by Swift herself. For critics, that detail became the focal point of the discussion. They argued it highlighted the distance between Meghan's media ambitions and Taylor's position within the entertainment industry. Others, however, viewed the situation as routine, noting that celebrities of Swift's stature frequently rely on representatives to manage scheduling requests. Regardless of interpretation, the reported rejection generated widespread media coverage and became another example of how even private invitations involving high-profile public figures can quickly become public talking points. Number 4. The Bondi Beach moment. Another incident frequently discussed by critics took place during Harry and Meghan's visit to Bondi Beach in Australia. The appearance attracted significant attention, with photographers, security personnel, staff members, and members of the public gathering as the couple walked through the area. Like many royal engagements, the event received substantial media coverage and drew curious onlookers. One brief moment, however, ended up dominating online conversation. As Harry and Meghan moved through the beach, a woman relaxing nearby continued sunbathing without visibly reacting to the commotion. She didn't appear to look up or interrupt what she was doing, even as cameras and spectators focused on the royal visit. That image quickly spread across social media, where many users treated it humorously. Some commentators joked that her lack of reaction contrasted sharply with the attention surrounding the couple, while others simply saw it as someone enjoying a quiet day at the beach without paying much attention to a nearby public event. For critics, the moment became symbolic of a broader point: not every public appearance produces the same reaction from every audience. Supporters dismissed the viral discussion as people reading too much into a single candid moment. Even so, the clip became one of the more memorable images from the Australia tour and continued circulating online long after the visit had ended. Another moment that drew attention involved the wedding of Peter Phillips. According to reports, the ceremony was attended by several senior members of the royal family, including King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and Princess Eugenie, who was reportedly expecting at the time. Because so many well-known royals were said to be present, public attention quickly shifted toward who wasn't there. That is where Prince Harry's reported absence became a talking point. Some commentators argued it appeared more significant than a simple scheduling conflict. In their view, when most close relatives attend a family celebration, those missing naturally become part of the conversation. Critics also noted that Princess Eugenie reportedly attended despite ongoing public scrutiny surrounding her father, Prince Andrew. Reports suggested that Prince Andrew himself was not present, with some commentators speculating that organizers wished to avoid unnecessary distractions. Against that backdrop, Harry's reported absence prompted additional discussion, with some observers wondering what it might suggest about his current relationship with the wider family. According to critics, the optics were difficult. They argued that Harry, once considered especially close to many of his royal cousins, now appeared increasingly distant from family gatherings. Others, however, cautioned against drawing conclusions from a single guest list, noting that private family events often involve circumstances unknown to the public. Even so, the reports fueled debate. Some commentators suggested that after years of physical distance and public disagreements, relationships within the family may simply have changed over time. Whether that interpretation is accurate remains a matter of opinion rather than established fact. Number 6. Frogmore Cottage. The next story revolves around Frogmore Cottage, a property that many observers viewed as carrying far greater significance than simply being a residence. After Harry and Meghan stepped back from their roles as working royals, many people assumed Frogmore Cottage would continue serving as their home whenever they returned to the United Kingdom. Instead, reports later indicated that they had been asked to vacate the property. For critics, the development symbolized something much larger than moving out of a house. They argued it represented the end of one of Harry and Meghan's final official ties to royal life in Britain. From that perspective, the decision reflected a broader principle. If the couple were no longer carrying out official royal duties, they would no longer retain the same privileges associated with those roles. Commentators also pointed out that losing Frogmore meant the couple no longer had an official royal residence available during visits to the UK. Some described that as symbolic rather than practical, emphasizing that Harry and Meghan still had the financial means to stay elsewhere. The discussion centered less on housing itself and more on what the loss of the property represented. Reports at the time characterized the decision as another indication that the separation between the Sussexes and the working royal family had become increasingly formal. Supporters viewed it as a logical administrative decision, while critics interpreted it as a clear message that the institution was moving forward without them. The conversation didn't end there. Some reports suggested that, after the property was vacated, changes were made as part of preparing it for future use. Critics interpreted those reports symbolically, arguing that Frogmore no longer reflected Harry and Meghan's chapter as working royals. Others viewed the changes as ordinary property management rather than evidence of any deeper meaning. Regardless of interpretation, Frogmore Cottage became another widely discussed moment in the ongoing story of Harry and Meghan's evolving relationship with the royal family, with supporters and critics continuing to draw very different conclusions from the same events. According to critics, losing Frogmore Cottage symbolized more than simply giving up a residence. In their view, it represented another step in the gradual separation between Harry and Meghan and the institution they once served. Rather than responding through interviews or public statements, the palace's actions were interpreted by some as speaking for themselves. No lengthy explanations, no public confrontation, just the end of their use of the property. Supporters, however, viewed it as an administrative decision that naturally followed the couple's departure from official royal duties. Number 7. The Platinum Jubilee Reception. Another moment that generated widespread discussion came during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in 2022. When Harry and Meghan arrived at St. Paul's Cathedral for the service, television cameras captured the crowd's reaction. Reports noted that some members of the public applauded while others booed, creating a mixed response that quickly became one of the most talked about moments of the event. For critics, the boos reflected lingering public frustration following the couple's interviews, documentaries, and public criticism of the royal family. Others pointed out that the reception was not uniformly negative, and that many people in attendance also welcomed them. As the couple entered the cathedral, some viewers commented on their expressions and body language, suggesting they appeared serious or reserved. Whether those impressions accurately reflected how they felt is impossible to know, but the images spread rapidly online and became the subject of countless discussions. Commentators argued that the moment carried symbolic weight because it unfolded during one of the royal family's most significant public celebrations, with cameras broadcasting the event around the world. Regardless of differing opinions about the crowd's reaction, the footage became another widely shared chapter in the continuing public debate surrounding Harry and Meghan. Number 8. South Park. The next incident didn't come from a royal event at all, it came from popular culture. South Park devoted an episode to a fictional prince and his wife that many viewers interpreted as a satire of Harry and Meghan. The episode quickly attracted widespread attention because it focused on a criticism that had already become common in public commentary. According to critics, the satire centered on what they viewed as a contradiction between the couple's calls for privacy and their continued participation in high-profile interviews, documentaries, books, and media projects. Supporters of Harry and Meghan, on the other hand, argued that seeking privacy from intrusive media coverage does not necessarily prevent someone from choosing to tell their own story through selected platforms. Regardless of where people stood, the episode resonated with audiences and generated extensive discussion online. Rather than inventing a new controversy, the writers built their satire around themes that were already part of the public conversation. For many commentators, that was what made the episode so memorable. It became one of the most widely discussed portrayals of Harry and Meghan in popular culture, and demonstrated how their story had expanded beyond news coverage into mainstream entertainment. Whether viewers considered the satire fair or unfair, the episode became another highly visible moment in the couple's public narrative. That exchange became one of the memorable jokes in the episode. The fictional couple then declares they are leaving in search of a quiet life while repeatedly shouting, "We want privacy." A scene that many viewers saw as the central punchline of the satire. Number 9. The Serena Williams moment. The next incident unfolded at Wimbledon and, according to many critics, became one of the more uncomfortable celebrity moments involving Meghan. She attended the tournament to support Serena Williams, whose matches naturally attracted enormous media attention. With television cameras capturing nearly every reaction around centre court, even brief interactions became subjects of public discussion. According to commentators, Meghan appeared to speak with Serena Williams' mother during the match. Some viewers felt Serena's mother remained focused almost entirely on the action taking place on court instead of engaging in conversation. Others cautioned that, as the parent of a player competing in a major championship, concentrating on the match would have been entirely understandable. Even so, short clips from the broadcast circulated widely online. Critics interpreted the interaction as awkward, arguing that Meghan seemed eager for a friendly exchange, while Serena's mother appeared more interested in watching her daughter compete. Supporters, however, argued that too much was being read into a brief televised moment. The discussion grew because some commentators suggested Meghan's attendance highlighted her friendship with Serena Williams, while critics argued the footage did not project the image they believed she may have intended. Rather than seeing a warm celebrity reunion, they viewed the moment as an example of how small interactions can quickly become major talking points when cameras are constantly rolling. For many observers, what made the clip memorable was not an obvious rejection, but the subtle nature of the interaction. No confrontation took place, no harsh words were exchanged, yet the differing interpretations spread rapidly across social media. Number 10. Hugh Grosvenor's wedding. Another widely discussed episode centered on the wedding of Hugh Grosvenor, one of Britain's most prominent landowners, and a longtime friend of the royal family. Because of Hugh's close connections, public attention quickly turned to the guest list. Royal commentators noted that invitations to such events are often viewed as symbolic, leading many people to speculate about relationships within the family. Reports indicated that Harry and Meghan were not in attendance. According to various media accounts, one explanation offered was a desire to keep the wedding focused entirely on the bride and groom rather than allowing wider royal issues to dominate headlines. Those reports reflected anonymous sourcing and have been interpreted differently by different commentators. The situation attracted additional attention because Hugh has been publicly reported to be one of Prince Archie's godparents. For critics, that made Harry and Meghan's reported absence seem especially notable. Others argued that private wedding guest lists are deeply personal, and that many factors unrelated to family disputes can influence invitation decisions. Reports also indicated that Prince William attended the wedding and played an important ceremonial role. That contrast became another point of discussion, with some commentators interpreting it as evidence of William's continuing close relationship with Hugh, while others viewed it simply as a reflection of long-standing personal ties. As with many stories involving the royal family, the event produced sharply divided opinions. Some saw the guest list as carrying symbolic meaning, while others cautioned against drawing broad conclusions from a private family celebration. Once again, many commentators focused on the contrast. Prince William was present at the celebration in a prominent role, while Harry and Meghan were not part of the occasion. To critics, that difference reinforced the idea that long-standing personal relationships and active royal responsibilities now carry greater weight than shared history alone. Others cautioned that private wedding invitations are personal decisions and should not automatically be interpreted as public statements. Number 11. Trooping the colour. After stepping back from their roles as working members of the royal family, Harry and Meghan entered a very different chapter of their public lives. Although they retained their royal titles, they were no longer carrying out official duties on behalf of the crown. That distinction became especially noticeable during Trooping the Colour, the annual celebration marking the monarch's official birthday. Royal commentators pointed out that one of the ceremony's defining traditions is the Buckingham Palace balcony appearance, where working members of the royal family gather following the parade. Because the balcony has long symbolized the institution's active public-facing team, many observers pay close attention to who appears there. Reports indicated that Harry and Meghan were not included in those official appearances. For some critics, that reflected a clear message that the event was intended to highlight the working royal family rather than former working royals. Others argued that the decision was simply consistent with the palace's publicly stated policy following the couple's departure from official duties. Either way, the contrast became another talking point. While the celebrations continued in London, Harry and Meghan remained in California, reinforcing for many observers just how different their relationship with the institution had become. Number 12. Harry's position at the coronation. The next moment came during one of the most historic royal events in recent decades, King Charles III's coronation. Because Harry is the king's son, some members of the public expected he would occupy a highly visible place during the ceremony. Instead, television viewers noticed that he was seated farther back among the congregation rather than near the central group of working royals. That seating arrangement quickly became the subject of widespread commentary. Some royal analysts suggested the placement reflected the distinction between Harry's place within the family by birth and his current position outside the group of working royals. Others emphasized that ceremonial seating at major state occasions follows detailed protocols and logistical planning, making it difficult to draw firm conclusions from seating alone. Meghan did not attend the coronation, remaining in California while Harry traveled to London for the service. Her absence added another layer to the public discussion, with commentators offering different interpretations of what it signified. Regardless of those differing opinions, the images from Westminster Abbey became another widely circulated moment in the continuing public conversation surrounding Harry, Meghan, and their evolving relationship with the royal family. Harry attended the coronation on his own, took his assigned seat away from the central group of working royals, and departed shortly after the ceremony concluded. For many observers, those images carried symbolic weight. They suggested that, while Harry remained a member of the royal family by birth, his public role within the institution had fundamentally changed. Others argued that the seating arrangements simply reflected ceremonial protocol rather than any personal statement. Number 13. The state reception. The final moment on the list involved the state reception, an event that many royal commentators believe illustrated the distinction between being part of the royal family and serving as a working royal. Before the event, some reports suggested Harry and Meghan might attend. However, later reports indicated that the guest list would be limited to working members of the royal family. As a result, the couple did not attend. To many commentators, the decision reflected the palace's continued emphasis on official roles rather than family relationships. State receptions are formal diplomatic occasions centered on constitutional responsibilities, not celebrity status or media visibility. From that perspective, limiting attendance to working royals was viewed by some as consistent with the couple's decision to step back from official duties. Critics argued that the moment underscored what they see as the central tension surrounding Harry and Meghan's departure. In their view, choosing a more independent life naturally meant giving up certain ceremonial privileges and access connected to official royal service. Others disagreed, arguing that stepping away from royal duties does not erase family relationships, and that such decisions should not be viewed as personal rejections. Regardless of which interpretation people accepted, the reception became another widely discussed example of how Harry and Meghan's relationship with the monarchy has evolved since leaving their working royal roles. And that concludes our countdown of 13 moments that generated significant public discussion surrounding Meghan and Harry. Which entry stood out to you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel.